Happy New Year from all of us here at SEO Jesus. Despite 2024 being a really rough year for many of us in SEO, I can tell you for us it's been a really successful year. I think that basically comes down to when there's lots of change, there's also a huge amount of opportunity. And in today's video, I want to talk about some of that opportunity. I've been thinking for a few weeks now in terms of, like every other SEO influencer, talking about my predictions for 2025. I really went off the idea of doing a technical video talking about all the usual advice of build a brand, optimize for AI overviews, invest in other channels besides SEO. That's all good advice that doesn't really change. But my fixation as we come to the end of the year has been much more about looking back, and in particular, this idea of failed projects. Because every time a new technique comes along, there's all this pushback, there's all this curiosity, saying, is this going to work? Or even if it does work, how long is it actually going to work for? And some of us will go away and do tests and case studies and tutorials on it, but the vast majority of people just don't take any action at all. And I remember being one of those people where you don't want to invest too much, whether it's time, energy, money. You don't want to get off the starting line until you've got a really high degree of certainty of success. And my message for you today, my ultimate advice for 2025, is to try and get over that habit slightly and keep in mind the two factors of the upside risk versus the downside risk. Maybe you're going to spend an afternoon or two trying to figure out this thing. Maybe you're going to have to spend $50 to $100 on getting some software. But overall, that's a pretty small investment. Compare that to any other business. If you started a shop, how long are you going to have to lease that shop for and get staff and get stock? There was a period earlier this year where I was convinced of going down the e-com route, even looking at manufacturing facilities. I even got as far as putting out job ads to try and recruit people to work in my production facility, just to get a full idea of whether this whole system I had in mind was really going to work. But what you ultimately see is a lot of upfront cost. And when I compare that to simply doing an SEO test, actually there's a massive difference between the two. $100 of software, maybe a week to really dig down and figure out how this new system works. Maybe I take things further and spend $500 on a course. I'm still not really spending more than $1,000 on this particular thing that could potentially be a major revenue source. And it's this particular dashboard I keep coming back to whenever I'm contemplating this. Now this comes back to January and February this year, where I was using Reddit to promote AI girlfriend apps. And you can see by the end of the year now, I've made more than $9,000 through this particular process. Now it's been rocky. If I go to reports, you can see I made the vast majority of that right at the beginning when Reddit was working really well. So February 2024, $2,600. In March 2024, that's when it stopped working. Still made $2,000 because in the days leading up to that, obviously the changes with Reddit weren't implemented at the beginning of the month. It was about midway through the month, so in that early 2 weeks I still made $2,000, but actually the drop off from that has really not been that severe. So April $710, May $904, and at this point this is all pure margin. I talked to so many other online business owners where the headline revenue is great, whether you're looking at e-com, whether you're looking at agencies, but a lot of the time their actual margin might only be 20 to 30%. And then bear in mind you've got your payment processing fee. That's normally a few percent of your total revenue, not the profit. So if you're paying a few percent on every transaction to Stripe or anyone else, then that 20% margin suddenly becomes a 16% margin or something like that. I can't do maths. But when you factor in all these little costs, which are typically on the revenue amount rather than the profit amount, that profit gets eroded further and further. So actually, although affiliate earnings generally do seem to be smaller, they are basically pure margin, certainly in this case where I'd already done the work, and through a mix of recurring revenue, but also just having so much content out there that was still being picked up and found, I was continuing to generate income from it. And that's carried on for a long time. If I come right across to November, December, bearing in mind it's now 10 months since I even touched this, and 9 months since the technique actually stopped working, and I did $300 in October, $312 in November, and $327 in December. So it seems to have plateaued and not really going down much. So if I flip this over to just the last 30 days, you can see up and down every day, but still $36 in a day at one point. And some of those, like I said, are still new signups and new customers. So what is my point about this? Obviously, you're not going to retire on $300 a month. The point is, anytime I post a video like this, I'll get loads of pushback saying this is going to get blown up, this isn't going to work. Or if it does work, how long is it going to work for? But the fact is, I would call this a failure on the grounds that it made money for a few months, and then that technique stopped working. However, the end result of this failure was $9,300, and that's continuing to increase. 2 months' time, this should then cross $10,000. And this was basically just a testing phase. I was just playing around, having fun with it, and it kept on working until it stopped working. And I could extend this to so many other of my failures over the years, where I'm still getting commission payments from various projects and websites I did years ago. And although none of them are what I would call successful, none of them really generated a real return, there's still an incremental benefit. Firstly, if nothing else, my own knowledge, because every time you do one of these things, you're definitely going to learn something, but a lot of those residual amounts that keep coming in stack up. It was the same thing when I started YouTube. I had no idea it was going to work, and I was trying so many different techniques to try and build my brand, get more clients, and build revenue streams. And of course, I hesitated on it far too long. It wasn't until September 2020 that I really sat down and did a good YouTube video, although I look back and I laugh at how I ended up exporting the wrong video quality. So it was already just a basic screen share, but even then I messed up the X and it was uploaded in a really low res. And yet despite that, it's still my most successful video ever, 10,000 views, most of which came in just a matter of days. And obviously you can now see the result of my brand having blown up on YouTube. Similarly, I'm always trying to crack Facebook ads because although I've got my organic channels, there's still the dream of just running that Facebook ad campaign where you know that whatever you put in, you end up with a solid return coming out. And the targeting of Facebook is now so good that you're able to identify, or rather the platform is able to identify exactly who your audience is when they're in the buying mood. So I've tried it multiple times throughout my career, often with very low success, but in the last couple of months, we started this campaign in October, and this time I was committed. I'm not backing down until we actually make this work. Now, a few weeks ago, we were down to around £300 per lead, which given our clients tend to stay on for a long time because they get such good results, many of our clients will therefore pay us $50,000 to $100,000. And so it's easily worth spending thousands to actually get that client. So at around $400 per lead, that was already looking really good. And now that's come down to just £88 per lead, as the pixel data is getting better and better. So again, one of those themes that seemed like a big struggle, got through the testing and learning phase, and now I have clients on autopilot and I don't even need to spend time anymore. I can just spend money. Now, of course, I do have to manage this. This is not to say that your next idea is going to be the best idea and guaranteed to work. And I've been there as well, taking on credit card debt or investing massive personal savings. I think it takes a lot of experience to actually get an idea of what's a sensible amount to invest and analyzing the upside versus downside risk. But every now and then you do get it right. That will pay off for all the duds and then some on top. But if I look back at times, for instance, where I've gone to and I've invested thousands into expired domains, one day I will do a video where I go through all of my business failures. But trust me, that's going to be a very long video. I'm going to need lots of water to talk that long. But many of those expired domain projects, one way or another, didn't work. Whether they got massive traffic, that traffic didn't convert, or if my content just didn't get off the ground in the first place, or maybe it did perform for a while and then it got tanked. Those are all very real experiences. But the fact is, each one of those domains I cannot regard as a loss because there's still that fundamental asset value with each of them. With an expired domain like that, I can still throw up a basic website and then get loads of guest post inquiries every day. People reaching out to me saying they've got an e-com site. Would I be willing to sell them a guest post for $50 to $100 or so? So if I were forced to, I could absolutely get my full investment back, even on those failed projects. So 2025 is inevitably going to see far more change than we've already seen over 2023 and 2024. So the real key skill doesn't come down to schema, entities, or semantic nodes, or any other new technique you've heard of. It's got to be much more about the business mindset of implementing and testing whilst managing those upsides and downside risks. Because whatever you typically find, whatever you're being told on the internet, you really don't know if something is guaranteed to work for you until you actually try it for yourself. But the good news is a lot of the time it can be very easy to test. I was in the same boat years ago where I knew I had to do outreach link building for my websites, but there was this massive hesitation because I had to get all this software, all these tools, and there was this fear that if I start building the wrong links, then that's going to damage my site. So I was too taken in by speculation and hysteria rather than just getting on and testing. And of course, as soon as I actually did it, it worked wonders. I thought, why on earth did no one tell me this before? The fact is they did, they were just overcomplicating it. And I wasn't able to visualize and believe it for myself. So until you actually do it, these things seem really difficult and complicated. But you figure it out, you push through, and then you've mastered it very quickly. And of course, then the result was basically, I'm getting great results from my websites through link building. Why don't I offer this as a service? And of course, that's a classic case where loads of people will come back saying, it's too competitive, it's too commodified. There are going to be all these issues with running an agency, taking on clients and staff. And you do have to go through those challenges and push through. But the result is I'm now building thousands of backlinks every month for my clients, many of whom are getting fantastic results. So now I'm almost certainly rambling, but my key message for you in 2025 really is to stop thinking about what if this goes wrong, or is this really going to work? And start flipping that round into what if this does work? What if it actually went well? And like I say, commit yourself to performing all these little tests, even if they're just on the back burner. For a long time, I've been trying to work out keyword manipulation, where you go into a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush, and you can actually manipulate the search volumes that appear in those tools. And that's got multiple functions. One is that it's used by a lot of link farms who are selling guest posts, where they want to inflate their traffic numbers by making it look like their brand name gets searched 50,000 times per month. And therefore, the headline is their traffic looks like it's really high because they're ranking #1 for their brand name. That's got this high search volume. So any tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush can be fooled into thinking that that website is getting that much traffic. And that therefore makes those guest posts and backlinks far more valuable. But the other reason to do it is you can do fun things like this, like getting Ahrefs to say, why is Stuart Vickers the best SEO in the world? So this has been a personal project for a long time now, basically figuring out what's the right tool to do it. And even if you have the right tool, how do you get the right approach? I've only been running the test for a few weeks now, but we've got the keyword actually popping up in the tool. The only question now is how long before the search volumes actually start to reflect, because currently we're sending a lot of traffic to that keyword. And of course, once you actually get keywords coming up like this, other writers and webmasters start to target that keyword because they want to complete their topical authority. They've been told they need to tick off every single relevant keyword for their industry. So if I keep this up, then it's very likely that other SEO websites will start targeting the keyword with blog posts saying, why is Stuart Vickers the best SEO in the world? And like I say, other link farm sites where all they want to do is sell guest posts, in which case they may well also target it because it's not going to be a high competition search term. So if this does pop up saying this gets 50,000 searches a month and they can rank for it, then they can make Ahrefs say that their website gets huge amounts of traffic, 20,000 visitors a month, and they can therefore charge much more per guest post, $100, $200, something like that. So again, just a little test that's going on in the background. And of course, there's SEO Neo. I'm aware I've been promising this for some time now, but I'm still doing lots of testing on the tool to work out how effective it is, what's the best way to actually get that effect. This is a 2015 black hat tool that doesn't work anymore, whereas others are also saying they've tried it and they're getting great results. So don't believe the hysteria. Dig down, test for yourself, be curious. If you want to find out how it's going with SEO Neo and you want to receive my free training on it, once I've got it all planned out, then feel free to click the link below and sign up on the form there. But crucially, try things for yourself, be curious, and even if something fails, you're probably going to learn a lot from it, but you might well end up with really good residual income from it. So in my case, a couple of afternoons of testing, just playing around, and now it's nearly a year later and I've made $10,000 from it.